Welcome. This is Jai from Endless Motivation. Today, I want to share with you guys a philosophical concept known as Amor Fati. And I want to discuss what it is and how it can help you love the life that you live and how it can help you be more content and happy with your life overall. So, what is Amor Fati? Well, it translates to a love of fate or a love of one's fate. Basically, what it is it's a life view that accepts life in all of its parts. Now, when we say all of its parts, we mean the good and the bad. This includes happiness, joy, but it also includes all of the misery, suffering, and pain that comes with life as well. Life isn't just about good things, it's about the good and bad. And Amor Fati is all about accepting this and recognizing this and really accepting life in its totality. So you can't have good without the bad, just like you can't have day without night, or you can't have yin without yang, black without white. In this same sense, you can't have happiness without suffering. You can't have pleasure without pain. So it's all about viewing the bad in life as necessary, and not just necessary, but as actual facts of existence. That life can't actually exist without suffering and without pain. And it's literally impossible to have a life without suffering. Not only that, but all of the bad things in life, suffering, pain, misery, all of those things exist and they are part of life whether we like them or not. And they always will be. And that's something we just have to accept. And this is the point of Amor Fati. So the only choice we really have is to either accept life in its totality or to remain ignorant and to hide from it, to in a way stick our head in the sand and ignore all of the bad parts about life, but simply accept all of the good parts. So now what I want to do is discuss three different themes of Amor Fati throughout history. The first two are going to come from Stoic philosophers, and the third one comes from Nietzsche over 1,000 years later. The first theme I want to talk about comes from the ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus, and that is to let whatever happens happen. Now, Epictetus in his Enchiridion states the following: do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that whatever happens happen the way it happens. Then you will be happy. Now that sounds like a mouthful, so what exactly does that really mean? Well, according to Epictetus, everything that happens to you in your life, including good things, bad things, whatever, all of the events, circumstances, situations you find yourself in, all of those things that happen are a part of nature and they're natural. Also, all of those things that happen are largely beyond your control. Nature is largely beyond our control. We don't control the weather. We can't control the weather. We can't control our death. There are many external things that we don't control, yet we end up being upset when they happen to us. And to Epictetus, this doesn't really make any sense. You can't really be upset about something that you have no control over. And it also does no good trying to control what is beyond your control. So he says attempting to do so leads to us being upset and leads to us being unhappy. But what we can control is our reactions towards what happened to us, our reactions towards nature. So what we have to do is to accept the events and situations, even though they may seem random, that occur in our life. And instead of being upset when bad things happen, we should focus and spend our energy on how we react to those circumstances. And this will ultimately lead to us being much happier. So I'll share a story with you guys. Last week, I had a run of bad luck, and I mean very bad luck. Basically, I had just gotten home. It was late at night. I pull in my driveway, and as I open the door, a bee flies in through the door, stings me on the nose. And not just that, so I get stung on the nose. I go inside. I go inside. My nose is in pain because a bee just stung me at like 11 o'clock at night. I go inside to blow my nose, and as I'm leaning over the toilet and I throw the tissue in the toilet, I flush it. My keys were in my hand, and I dropped my keys in the toilet, and they flushed straight down the toilet. So literally within like a 30-second time span, I got stung by a bee, and I flushed my keys down the toilet. Now, this seems like extremely bad luck, and I could have reacted by, you know, cursing and slamming doors and being really upset. But Epictetus would say that's not the appropriate way to react to this. Instead, you have to accept that what happens is natural and it happened. So complaining about it and being upset and mad about it, that does nothing to change what actually happened. It would benefit you much more to focus your energy instead on remaining calm and then going later and getting a new set of keys and actually solving the problem. And this is going to lead us to our next theme, which is endurance in spite of nature. And this comes from another Stoic philosopher, Marcus Aurelius. Now, Marcus Aurelius tells us it's not events themselves that cause us to be upset, but rather it's how we view the events, and it's our perception of it that causes it to be upset. So he tells us when something bad happens to you, instead of viewing it as bad luck, view it instead as good luck. And he reminds us in his book Meditations, in all future events which might induce sadness, remember to call on this principle. This is no misfortune, but to bear it true to yourself is good fortune. So how can that apply to my situation and what just happened? Well, instead of viewing dropping my keys in the toilet as bad luck, I should instead view it as good luck that this has happened to me and I'm strong enough to bear the situation. So, it's out of good luck that although something bad has happened to you, you're strong enough to endure this misfortune, and you will end up being a better person in the long run for it. Again, as we said, cursing and slamming doors does you no good. Taking this even further, for any bad thing that happens to you in life, you can immediately turn this into a good thing by simply changing how you view the event, on Marcus Aurelius's view. And this is the essence of reframing things as well. So, really, all bad things that happen are not bad in themselves, but they are bad because we perceive them to be bad. And so they are. And this is why Marcus Aurelius says, souls are dyed with the colors of its thoughts. If we think something to be bad, it becomes bad. We think a situation to be good, and it becomes good. If we think a situation to be neither good nor bad, then it becomes that. So really, we can view all of the bad things that happen to us as tests of our character. And everything bad can be made good simply by switching how we view them, how we perceive them. Now, I know what you may be thinking. What about very bad events? What about things like death and loss and very bad things that happen to you in life? Surely it's not as easy to reframe those. It's not simply enough to, when you go through a lot of loss in your life, to just reframe it like that. But even here, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that death is still simply a part of nature, and it's a part of life. And even very bad events that happen to us exist as a part of nature, and they're meant to teach us rather than to make us suffer. This is why he says, and this is the essence of endurance in spite of nature, nothing happens to any creature beyond its own natural endurance. So think of everything bad that happens to you as a life lesson. And as Marcus Aurelius would tell us, If you couldn't endure this event, if you couldn't bear it, then you wouldn't be here. And that's meant to be a very liberating thought. And once we recognize this, and if we meditate on this thought, and if more people recognize this, perhaps we would be much happier in the long run as well. So, the last theme that I want to talk about today is the eternal yes sayer. And this comes from Nietzsche almost or over 1,000 years after Aurelius. So, whereas Aurelius showed us that we can endure in spite of nature and we can bear suffering, and suffering is meant to teach us, Nietzsche, on the other hand, believes that it's not simply enough to endure suffering. It's not enough to just bear suffering. We must do more than that. So, as he says in his autobiography, Ecce Homo, my formula for greatness in man is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backwards, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, but love it. And this is very important. Not only must we accept suffering in such a way as to endure it, but we must also love it, according to Nietzsche. And this is really the essence of Amor Fati. It's not just to accept our fate and not to simply endure our fate and whatever happens to us, but to love it for what it is, to love life for whatever it is, as a necessity. Suffering is a necessary part of life, and we can't just endure it, we must also love it. And this is something that most people don't do on Nietzsche's view. Most people don't truly love the life they live, or they aren't completely content with it. And even if you were just able to bear suffering, you would not be able to fully love your life until you actually endure and love all of the suffering in your life. So we must be content with our lives and all that happens. This includes all the good and bad. And this is really what it means to love life. So according to Nietzsche, we should attempt to live life in such a way that we want to change nothing. The good, the bad, the happiness, the pain, the suffering, the loss, etc. We should not want to change any of those. And this is also what it means to be truly content in your life as well. And this is why Nietzsche, I call him the eternal yes sayer, because he affirms life instead of denying it. To be able to stand up in the face of nature and to say yes to life, to love life and all that happens. This is the meaning of true contentment and fulfillment. This is the deep meaning of Amor Fati. And even though the universe may be a horrible place and may be indifferent to our existence, our lives are full of misery and suffering. If we can still endure and bear through the pain and still love life, then we will be truly happy. And that's how you become truly happy and truly content with your life, and how you learn to love the life you live.